guys, in today's video, we're going to be checking out the DC Collectibles Justice League Superman statue. Sculpted by James Marciano, the Man of Steel stands approximately 13 inches in height. The statue stands atop of this really cool Justice League shield logo. One singular peg will attach the Man of Steel to the stand, and the stand itself has some nice, almost like brushed aluminum or brushed metal sort of look to it. And within the interior of that, you've got a dark, almost dry brushing of a gunmetal silver. It's a really nice looking base, and might I also add too, it's a fairly heavy base as well. Flip it on the upside down, you've got a 5,000 worldwide release, and 5 felt feet are on the corner tips or the pointed tips of the shield to prevent scratching on surfaces. Attaching the statue to the shield is a simple case of plugging in, although you have to be mindful. Let me just show you, give you a close-up look there. It's not a complete circular peg, or peg hole, nor is it a circular peg here. So when you are lining it up, it only goes really one way. You'll have to line it up this way. And the best way I could remember to describe it is that Superman's foot will line up parallel to the bottom portion of the L. One thing you probably immediately see is the fact that this particular Superman statue actually has a real cloth cape, which is an excellent touch from the folks over at DC Collectibles. The cape can be draped behind Superman in a very refined state, or you can also bring this out as well. And the outer area of the cape also has a wire frame, so you can also adjust that accordingly as well. In all honesty, myself, I think when it comes to displaying this guy, I prefer keeping it kind of a little bit more compact. I think it just actually looks a lot nicer in all honesty. And it does really add to an additional flow that the statue otherwise wouldn't have. Now, it's not without some loss, though, unfortunately, because the cloth cape attaches the way that it does into his neck collar. I find this one area here ends up sitting a little on the loose side, this little extra cuff. Normally that would droop also in the costume itself, but it does seem to sit a little bit lower than normal. The suit he sports in Justice League is very similar to the one he also had in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, although notably a lot of people also spotted the fact that the costume, they deliberately went in and lightened areas, specifically around, it seems, muscled areas of his suit. And the statue here does the exact same thing, personally speaking. And it's not specifically a nitpick against the statue itself, but I'm not really a big fan of the Justice League Superman suit. I found like the lighter portions, the lighter areas around his musculature, I thought was a little too bright, especially when the camera, certain angles in the movie, especially when he's racing. I think the Flash is where you really see how bright the additional highlights are on the suit. In fact, I would even say that the statue here does a better job of doing a transition between the lighter and the darker shades of the costume. It doesn't seem to look as noticeably different here. But like the costume in the movie, it's got these very small, intricate details that even DC Collectibles has captured here in statue form. I didn't realize that there was that lighter blue outline around the emblem. I'd have to go back and check out the Justice League movie again. You can see all the little small, intricate little sculptings to the armor itself. It has that chainmail sort of effect textured across the entire body. Of course, if you're going to talk about Superman, you also have to make some mention to his face. The face is nicely sculpted, although I do find that the skin tone that they went with gives him a slight yellowy tint to him. Otherwise, I think the sculpt is really nicely done. Now keep in mind, this is an artist proof as well, so the final statue that you get in stores may not necessarily have the same sort of color palette that this particular statue does have. I will give credit where credit is due. They did do a really fantastic job of giving some darker undertones to his skin tone, so it's not all the same sort of color palette. But I do still find that the coloring here on Superman seems a little, not quite jaundice, but it does seem slightly yellow in comparison. I think it captures well enough the likeness of Henry Cavill, and I think that the things, little small details such as the eyes, having a little bit of that reflection certainly goes a long way as well. But I do think overall it's a nice looking head sculpt. The hair is nicely crafted. It's got a little bit of a wetness to it as well. I also do find that the skin tone does seem to have a little bit of a sheen to it. They could have maybe toned that down a slight bit, as I do find that the skin almost has almost like a sweaty sort of complexion to it. The pose is perfect because it's got Superman with his arms bent and hands to the sides of his waist, reflecting the truth, the justice, and all that other stuff. I really think that the stance is perfect, really, again, for Superman. And I love the fact that you've got the flowing cape here, which you can either have, again, draping off to the side. You can almost have as if like the wind is kind of blowing it off, or that the cape is just draping itself around the leg. It's one of the benefits of having the cape be fabric. It's stuff that you could do that you simply couldn't normally get with a statue. I really hope this isn't the last time that we're going to see cloth capes incorporated into DC Collectibles statues. I think really the end result adds a little extra element that otherwise the statues wouldn't normally bring. Normally the statues, of course, will have pre-sculpted, pre-molded capes, but by incorporating fabric, especially fabric that you can manipulate with the wire frames, you can do a little bit extra to the Man of Steel here. The Man of Steel statue, I think, turned out quite good. The overall sculpt, the pose, and paint is all nicely done. But the only thing I would say is slightly a departure and slightly makes this from being a perfect statue is the paint that's been done to his head and his hands. If you look at the box artwork that's on the left side of the figure, you can definitely see a little bit more of those warmer tones that I wish the statue ultimately had here on the right. It's still a good looking statue, and I do have to stress that this is an artist proof piece as well. So the final statue may not be exactly what you saw during the course of this review. It's a nice looking piece, just shy of the fact that the tones could have been changed and made a little bit warmer to the piece. He has an otherwise really cold sort of complexion. And again, I can't 100% guarantee that that be the case when you pick up the statue for yourself. You may find getting this guy in hand that he may have some of the warmer tones that this particular statue that we've been looking at just didn't really have. That's about the only thing that I would change differently to the statue, because I really think otherwise it's a gorgeous looking piece, and certainly looking forward to adding this one to my collection. Speaking of adding to my collection, of course, if you looked at the back of the box, there was a whole bunch of other Justice League members. The Wonder Woman does look like she is a carryover from the original Wonder Woman that we got from Batman v Superman. They look like they just have simply changed out the base. But still, I'm going to want to probably pick up that one as well. And if I do get a chance to get the other Justice League members, of course, expect reviews of those to follow as well. If you guys are interested in picking this guy up for yourself, you can find him at your local comic book store. If you can't find a comic book store in your area, fear not. You can head over to www.comicshoplocator.com, put in your postal code or your zip code, and you'll be able to find a comic book store in your area. I'm also going to put the links down below to DC Collectibles, so if you want to head over to their website, check out some of the upcoming pieces that they're going to have released. As well, if you haven't had a chance to hit that little subscribe button down below, make sure you do so. Don't let an invasion to Earth or a bad CG'd mustache ruin your chances of catching up on new reviews that are hitting this channel. So make sure you hit that little subscribe button down below. More videos are going to be coming your way, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.